Hey guys, and welcome back to A&J Education. In today's video, we're talking about how to get into Oxford for a master's degree in theology. And we have a very special guest with us today, Tuppy. Tuppy, welcome back.
Thanks, Sally.
Those of you who may have seen Tuppy before will know that Tuppy did French and German at Christchurch, Oxford as his undergraduate degree. And Tuppy, you're now doing...
I'm doing a postgraduate diploma, it's called, in theology at Regent's Park. So it's the equivalent of a BA in a year, which would set me up then to do a master's.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for correcting me. So if you're thinking of studying theology or doing a transition degree, keep watching, and we'll try to extract as much information from Tuppy as possible. All right, Tuppy. So first of all, why? It seems a bit random. You do 4 years of French and German. You work in a farm in Germany. You work in outside Paris. 4 years of your life, and now you throw it all away to become a priest, or what's this about?
Well, I found that a lot of the literature we studied in French and German, it all ends up becoming a question of, what is the meaning of life, or these authors trying to engage with religious questions, with philosophy. So it kind of seemed like the natural step to then go one further and actually engage directly with those questions. Also, for me personally, it was a sort of it's a personal inquiry, wanting to find out the truth or come closest to some kind of truth. So I think theology is really invaluable for that. I think people need to engage with the bigger questions of life at some point.
Yeah. And Tuppy, what is theology? Because I always saw this kind of an intersection of philosophy and literature, logic to some degree. How would you describe it?
I guess literally it means the study of God. So it'll be the study of religion. At Oxford, that can entail studying a wide variety of religions and also studying the religious experience. So if you're interested in what goes on in people's brains when they're believing in God or when they're praying, then you can look at that anthropological side of things. So it really is a question of belief in God, asking the questions about the afterlife and the origins of life as well. So that incorporates a wide variety of disciplines. So as you said, there'll be philosophical elements in it. There'll be history. So, for example, you could study the history of the early church of Christianity or the history of medieval Islam, that kind of thing. A lot of literary study. You'll be reading a lot of books. You could read even fiction texts. You could read Paradise Lost by Milton. So it really is great if you have a wide variety of interests, but all pointing towards religion and God.
Yeah. And Tuppy, so the degree that you're pursuing, that is sort of like a sandwich year, right? So it's
exactly
for those who perhaps did not pursue, because your priorities and sort of direction may change, right? So you didn't initially study theology, and you kind of developed this interest and fascination later in life, right? So
exactly
designed for someone like you who wants to switch to theology.
Yeah. So if you wanted to do a master's in theology at Oxford, you have to have either a BA or, as I'm doing, the postgraduate diploma. I couldn't have applied. I can't apply for a theology master's having done French and German. So it just gives you that option of transitioning. For me personally, I haven't applied for a master's this year. I think I might in the future, but it also means I have that BA equivalent qualification in 1 year, which is really fantastic. So even if it's not pointing towards something bigger, 1 year of theological study is really valuable.
No, so basically what you have your BA in French and German and the BA in theological study. No, that's so is it, do they condense 3 years worth of work into a year, or?
Yeah, so you obviously don't cover as much ground as a normal BA in theology. So I do 3 papers for my final exams. You can do 3 or 4. depending on how much time you have. And then I do some biblical Hebrew on the side as well. So 3 hours a week of that, which is difficult, but very fun. So it means, you know, on the government website, it says a PG dip, a postgraduate diploma, is equivalent to a BA. However, for example, if you wanted to apply for Teach First to teach theology, you can't do that with a postgraduate diploma because they expect a certain number of years studying these questions. So that's something worth bearing in mind, that it might not always be equivalent to the BA, even though it technically is.
Okay. And how big is your cohort, and sort of what are the where do people go with this diploma afterwards?
So it's around 15 to 20 each year. Unfortunately, we haven't really had much contact in this year, given the circumstances, only really some Zoom calls. I think for most people, the postgraduate diploma will be a means of then studying for a master's and then perhaps moving on to doctorate studies. Perhaps for some people, it might mean going into the church. For people like me, you know, I may do a master's in the future, but it's more of a intellectual inquiry, and then it could take me in a lot of directions which might be to do with theology or not. I think that's true of all humanities, that there are obvious ways that you can use them, but equally it may just be that you use those essay writing skills to become a journalist or something like that, and write about, you could be a sports journalist having studied French and German or theology, that kind of thing.
No, that's really interesting. And I guess a lot of I don't think there will be lots of people watching this because it is, you know, it is a very niche area. But if you know, if I'm thinking of, okay, maybe I want to pursue theology academically, maybe I want to go into the church, you know, how do I go about this Oxford application? You know, what are the steps? Can you walk us through the mechanics of that?
So I think the good thing is that this covers the master's base as well, because the postgraduate diploma has a very similar application process. So I had to apply in January. I think it's 10th of January was the deadline for my year. It obviously changes from year to year slightly, and that involved a personal statement, really explaining why I wanted to switch from French and German to theology, what papers I would like to look at, what my particular areas of interest were, and then the traditional sort of, you know, uploading your CV, that kind of thing, the more technical side of things. But mostly it's that focus on the statement. If you're applying for a master's, because you'll have done theology before, you'll be expected to talk about your research interest, what you'd like to write your thesis on, and the same for a doctorate, you know, what you're going to write your DPhil on.
And in terms of the references, so do you need 2 academic references to apply?
Yeah, I needed 3 actually. So I had 3 from my Oxford undergraduate experience. So my German tutor, then 2 of my French tutors. Yeah.
And how do again, because you don't have any background in theology, so how can people who can't really comment on your theology knowledge or expertise write you a reference to do a diploma in you know, postgraduate diploma in theology?
So I think they would have focused on my hard work and discipline, that kind of thing. And perhaps, you know, as I said, a lot of these humanities have overlapping areas of interest. So having studied French and German, there's a big emphasis on literature. So then if I've written good literary essays for my tutors, then they'll probably trust that I'll be able to read some Aquinas or Augustine for my theology and write a good essay, because a lot of the skills are transferable. And then equally, having studied French and German, I had shown some kind of aptitude for language, hopefully. So given that theology, you'll often study Greek if you're doing New Testament studies, for example, or Hebrew for the Old Testament, or you could do Sanskrit if you're interested in Buddhism. So in my case, my language skills could be commented upon by my tutors. I think there's definitely enough for them to talk about.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And is there an interview component, just like with undergrad applications?
That actually wasn't for the postgraduate diploma, so it was very much just all the online system, which I think is a bit different and quite refreshing. It takes a bit of weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, definitely. And also from from experience of our students going for postgraduate degrees, masters, PhD, whatnot, the applicants tend to be much more serious, because if undergrad, there is a lot of school pressure, society pressure. It's almost like a rite of passage, parental pressure, sibling pressure. But if you do get lots of people who maybe are not really in it because they want to be. But for masters, I mean, unless you're a bit of a lunatic, you only apply because you want to do that, right?
Yeah, definitely don't apply if you're not passionate. And I think that's a wonderful thing about it. At undergraduate level, I came across more people who weren't so into the subjects, so it's a bit less stimulating. Whereas now, if I'm in my Hebrew class, people really want to learn Hebrew for whatever reason. Why would you want to do that? But people are enthusiastic, so that just makes it so much more enjoyable.
No, it makes sense. All right, and Tuppy, just on a personal note, with you, so you mentioned that you may do a master's later in life, but you're going to be done in May, June, after your final. So what's next for you? Where does this diploma take you?
So I am applying for some teaching roles at the moment. So I would like to study to teach religious studies, or whatever the school's going to call it, theology, that kind of thing. So that's my near-term goal. So I think that's, if it works, then that shows it's a wonderful stepping stone to do this postgraduate diploma and just 1 year of study, and then I could go straight into teaching. But like I said, I was applying for Teach First and then found out I couldn't teach religious studies in my case. But that's how I'd like to use it, because I think I have a real enthusiasm for the subject and think it's important that people explore these questions, as I said earlier. So I'd like to give them the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I'm sure all of us, all of the viewers will join me and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
In that, teaching is a great profession, very important profession. So all the best. Maybe if I had a teacher like you, I wouldn't have quit religious studies at the earliest opportunity.
Thanks very much.
But Tuppy, thank you so much for your time. And for telling us about this postgraduate diploma in theology. And guys, if you haven't seen the whole video, well, first of all, watch it. But if you just want a snapshot, this diploma exists to help those who have not studied theology for undergraduate, to give them a sandwich year, to then open their options to pursue masters in theology, or maybe go into PhD, and then you can go into academia or go into clergy or whatnot. So Tuppy, it's been very eye-opening. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Sunny.
All right. All the best.